Hello and welcome to this session in which we would look at the remaining type of audit evidence that we collect when we are performing an audit. And those are inquiries of clients, recalculation, reperformance, and observation. We already covered physical examination, confirmation, inspection. We had one whole session devoted for analytical procedures. Starting with inquiries of clients. What is inquiries of clients? Simply put, asking questions, inquiring the client, management, top management, middle-level management, as well as employees, obtaining information from the client in response to auditor questions. And when you are an auditor, you will do this yourself. You would ask questions. You'll have a series of questions. Now, inquiries, they yield significant evidence. They yield a lot of evidence, and it's very cost effective. You're just basically spending some time with that person to ask them questions. That's great. However, you have to understand the information provided is considered weak evidence. Well, two reasons. One is the person might be lying because they work for the company. They're not independent. Two, they might be optimists. They might not be lying. They might be optimists, or they don't understand what you are asking for specifically. So it's a significant evidence, cheap evidence, but not really as reliable. What we need to do, we need to corroborate this evidence with other evidence. So we have to kind of take what they tell us, then look for other evidence to corroborate, to support what they said. Now let's move to recalculation. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com.
Farhat Accounting Lectures is a supplemental educational tool that's going to help you with your CPA exam preparation as well as your accounting courses. My CPA material is aligned with your CPA review course such as Becker, Roger, Wiley, Gleam, Miles. My accounting courses are aligned with your accounting courses broken down by chapter and topics. My resources consist of lectures, multiple choice questions, true-false questions, as well as exercises. Go ahead, start your free trial today.
What is recalculation? Recalculation is the process of verifying a subset of calculation performed by the auditor. So they perform their own computation, their own calculation. You go ahead and you redo it again. This verification entails assessing the accuracy. You're looking for the accuracy of the client arithmetic. Now, using a software that usually reduces this type of recalculation, nevertheless, we still perform those recalculation. Extending sales invoices and inventory, summing journals, subsidiary records, summing those, confirming calculation related to depreciation expense, making sure they computed the depreciation expense properly, recomputing prepaid expense. So here you are performing the recalculation. You are doing the math again, adding, subtracting, dividing, so on and so forth. Now, much of the auditor's work is facilitated through the use of spreadsheet. What you do is you transfer the data to a spreadsheet or audit software, and you ask the audit software to do what? To perform the computation for you. Now, let's talk about reperformance. Now, recalculation, reperformance, they do sound similar, but let's talk about reperformance. Reperformance is the auditor independence test of the client accounting procedures or control that were originally done as part of the entity's accounting and internal control system. Here you are going through the motion. You are reperforming the act, whereas recalculation involves rechecking computation, reperformance checking other procedures. Think about going over the act, and that's why I put this singer here to remind you, like she's acting, she's performing. You are doing the work, not only computation, and it's not computation. It's going through the motion, through the process. Examples will be comparing the price of an invoice to an approved list. You're not performing the computation. You're looking at the invoice, comparing it to a price list. Or you may perform the aging of receivable. They prepared the schedule of aging of receivable. That's fine. You redo it again. You're not checking their math. You are reperforming the step. Another type of reperformance is for the auditor to recheck transfer of information by tracing information included in one place to verify it's recorded at the same amount each time. For example, the auditor will make limited tests to make sure the information in the sales journal has been included in the proper customer account. So you made a sale to a customer. Did you update did you update the customer account? And is it at the right amount? So if it's in the sales journal, $500, you should update the customer account $500. You should update the subsidiary account receivable $500. And you should update the general ledger account receivable $500. You go through the motion, making sure that information is properly transferred. Once again, if you're using a software like a QuickBooks or any simple, when I say simple, basic software, it does this work for you. Nevertheless, you want to check. And sometimes you might be using multiple software, and those software, they are integrated together. They're not the same software. So you want to make sure the integration is done properly. Or sometimes the information is transferred from one software to the other. You know, the company could have 2 or 3 softwares. That happens often. Observation is the last type of evidence we look at. What's observation? Involving witnessing the execution of a process or tasks done by other. Well, an example will be touring the facilities of the company to get a general overview by observing individuals as they perform their accounting duties and other responsibilities. Now, you have to be careful. There are a lot of limitations for observation. It's a cheap way to collect evidence, but observation is limited to a time period. So when you're observing, you can't observe 24/7. You're observing, for example, you're taking 2 hours and you're observing the client. It has a time-specific nature. That's one. 2, if people know that they are being observed, they may alter their behavior and follow the procedures that they're claiming they are following, which in reality, they may not be doing this constantly. So this is why observation is problematic. It's easy way to collect evidence, but it's not a strong form of evidence. So they might conform to protocols while being watched, yet revert to normal practices when you are not observing them. Therefore, observation, just like inquiries, must be complemented with additional corroborating evidence. Let's take a look at the CPA exam question. Which of the following audit procedures provide the most reliable? So it's a strong evidence. It's provide most reliable evidence. Let's start from the bottom since we already discussed observation. When we said observation, would you say observation provides strong evidence? Well, we said observation is not for 2 reasons. 1, it's time specific. 2, the person may alter their behavior. Therefore, observation is out. What we have here is what's left is reperformance, recalculation, and confirmation. Now, in this session, we did not discuss confirmation, but we discussed it in the prior session. It's a form of evidence. So between reperformance, recalculation, and confirmation, let's talk about recalculation. Recalculation is basically checking the math of the arithmetic of the customer. Well, that's a good evidence, making sure they are performing their arithmetic correctly. And this step is if they have a proper software, it's not that good. So recalculation is out. Reperformance. Well, also reperformance is a good thing. Well, you are performing, you are looking, making sure they're doing their work, but as long as their system is working properly, they're supposed to be doing their work. However, confirmation, remember confirmation, when we say confirmation involves a third party. Third party, not usually, it's an external party to the client. And what do we know about the provider of the service? Provider of the service, independence provider, they have high reliable evidence. They provide high reliable evidence. Therefore, confirmation will definitely beat reperformance, and confirmation will be the most reliable evidence, especially if this confirmation is received directly by the auditor. So it did not go through the client. It went from the bank to the auditor, from the customer to the auditor. And that's the very high reliable evidence. Even though reperformance, you are there, you are watching the process, the confirmation is even a more reliable evidence. What should you do now? Go to Farhat Lectures, complete additional MCQs. That's going to help you do what? Understand these concepts better. Invest in yourself, whether you are a CPA exam candidate or an accounting student. Good luck, study hard, and of course, stay safe.